And joining us today with Heart and Soil magazine and Heart and Soil TV is Joanne Alfonsi. She is a super awesome human. She is the host mom to my son Blaze, who's been playing football in Ontario, and she has her own front yard garden, which I didn't even know she had until I came out here to visit Blaze. So when
Blaze
I saw,
never told you?
well, no, he said, "Mom, she's just like you.
Oh, well, that's
she she eats really healthy, and her house is like organized chaos." I hope that's okay that I know organized chaos. Well, he didn't say chaos. Chaos is my word, and Joanne's house is not chaos. But he said yeah that you grow your own food and all sorts of things. So, but I was blown away when I saw the garden, because I had really forgot what that could look like in an urban area, and I was so inspired to pull up to the house on the block with a yard that was all garden. So we're going to take a tour of Joanne's garden. She's going to tell us a little bit about what has worked well in her garden and why she does it, and the incredible impact it's had on her family and on her community.
Sounds great.
Shall we take a tour?
We shall.
All right, awesome. Turning your yard into a garden is one of the best things you can do for yourself, your family, your friends, and your community. I'm joined here with Joanne here today in Hamilton, and she has her entire front yard in a garden. She grows a massive amount of food for her family, gets to have extra conversations with her neighbors. What's your favorite thing that happens in the garden?
My favorite thing that happens out here is that my neighbors walk by and they comment on my plants, and they learn too, because there's often times where people don't know what an asparagus looks like, and a kid who's never seen where strawberries come from. So teaching them is pretty awesome.
That's so cool. What inspired you to turn your yard into a garden?
Well, number one was that I don't like grass. So also our backyard is pretty shady, and this was also kind of shady, but it was much better out here, out front. Make the space usable instead of something that we just look at. We get to use the space more, and we get to be out with people and walking by and saying hi.
That's super cool. Joanne, let's take people on a tour of your garden. So, Joanne, this is your garden that you've been working on for how many years?
It's been at least 8 years, maybe 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they started slowly. Different boxes were formed before others, and some of them are perennial. So we have strawberries, lots of asparagus.
This is the asparagus right here, for anyone who hasn't seen asparagus before. This is how it grows. And this shoot will shoot up a whole bunch of edible asparaguses, but you leave this beautiful branch on to grow asparagus for you next year. And then these are the strawberries. Are these ever bearing, or do they just produce in June?
Just June.
Okay, nice. So June bearing, that means they produce once a year. Mm-hmm. And then we've got...
we have our beans and sweet peas.
Mm-hmm.
I think I threw the seeds down and they all just went nuts. So
wow.
We have a lot of beans this year. We got leeks and carrots. Over here we have more strawberries. This is a planter that it's vertical gardening. So this is a great way to extend your space when you don't have a lot.
So this is brilliant. And I've seen people can buy these, mm-hmm. right? Or you actually, how did you get this one?
A friend of mine made it. So they just sort of cut slots in a barrel, mm-hmm. and with some heat, they pulled the slots open a bit. And so the strawberries will just grow from there. So, and my other strawberry container got too full. So they're like weeds. They just spread everywhere, right?
That's right, and it's brilliant. And do you use this for watering, or do you put your compost in it?
I use it for watering.
Okay.
I'm sure you could use it for compost too.
Yeah. There's some that are compost feeding. So you put your compost in here. You have worms in here, and
okay.
It recycles food that way and fertilizer that way. So that's really cool. But it's also often a watering mechanism. So mm-hmm. brilliant. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, and then we have tomatoes. Lots of tomatoes. just like Nona would have liked to. She had her whole side of her house full of, when we were growing up, like, so it's a tradition to have your front gardens as tomato holders if you are Italian. So I invested in my first fig tree over there. So my grandfather had a fig tree when I was growing up.
Whoopsie.
He buried it every year, and he had it got really large. It grew on a slant, but it is possible to grow figs in Canada. So,
it is. And so in BC we can actually grow them. BC is like BC, Canada.
Yeah.
You can actually grow them outside on the west coast.
Right.
And you plant them in the ground and they'll grow and you can harvest them. So what about here in Ontario?
In Ontario, we can't do that. Well, maybe as we approach more of our global warming, maybe we will be able to. But right now we can't. So we bury them. So you just kind of push it to its side a little bit, and you just cover it with dirt and then some burlap, and then in the spring you open it up again. And
okay, so we're going to go over to this fig tree just for a second, Joanne, and explain to us what you mean by burying it. So how would you bury this?
Well, right now it's in a pot. So actually this year I may just bring it inside, but next year I'm going to plant it in the ground. So you're just going to kind of tip it over a little bit gently and cover it with dirt.
How far up?
The whole thing.
The whole thing with dirt?
Yeah.
But they grow really big.
Yeah, so my grandfather did that every year. Like I said, it would grow sideways, but eventually he wouldn't have to bury it anymore. So I'm not too sure. I have to ask my mother how many years he would bury it for, but until it really established.
Oh my goodness. So you bury this fig tree. So you actually do leave it outside.
You leave it outside.
And you bury it with dirt. And how much, like you cover it with like a foot or so of dirt?
Yeah, like just so it's covered and insulated.
And insulated. Wow. And then you uncover it in the spring?
Yeah.
And then it grows and produces fruit or how old is this?
I just got this like a few weeks ago. So
awesome. Well, we can't wait to hear about it. And I see you've got rhubarb here.
Lots of rhubarb. Yep.
Nice. More strawberries.
Yeah. There's some plants in here, which I didn't know I could eat my daylilies until Natalie told me about that.
Yes, you can eat these. You can actually put them in salads, or you can even cook them like zucchini flowers. So deep frying them, tempura battering them.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, they are. They're super, super yummy. So try them. And you have?
I have horseradish here. Horseradish, it spreads like crazy. So you want to make sure you have it in its own container to keep it contained. I initially had it with my asparagus patch, and my asparagus patch got bigger, and I had a hard time controlling where my horseradish was growing. So as you can see, it's still coming up here. Even though I keep taking it out, it finds its way back. Yeah.
Very cool. And then we didn't get to your two beds over here, so come and tell us about what you have going on over
so here we have my greens. So it's a bit of a shady patch, so I do stuff here that tolerates more shade. Kale, rapini, arugula. I think I have some romaine growing there, and yeah, this is some kale that grew up from last year, so I thought, hey, why not just keep it and see what happens? And it's now growing some seeds, so I'm going to save these so that I'll have seeds for next year. So awesome. Kale seeds was one of the first seeds that I remember doing seed saving with my dad. And over here, garlic. So I have a weird garlic situation this year. I planted my garlic spaced apart properly, but thousands of them came up and I was unsure why. So we have a theory maybe that I left some of them to seed and it seeded the whole garden. So that is for sure what happened here, because we dug a few up. And Joanne, do you want to just show everybody what we found? So garlic will go to seed, and one of the ways to grow garlic is from the bulbs, which is traditionally the way people grow it. And the other way is to plant it from a seed. And so when you plant the garlic from the seed, you plant it and it comes up and you will get
these round bulbs. And so you could eat these if you wanted to, but you wouldn't necessarily, because you'd want to save these, and you plant these next year in year 2, and they'll grow full bulbs. So
yeah, we have way too many here. So I think I'm going to thin out some of these little guys that are probably the seeds that accidentally seeded, and then save the bulbs for next year. And then I'll have my big bulbs that I had planted previously, and then I have
the garlic scapes. Right.
Yes.
And so you're going to be you can tell which are last year's, which were planted from the garlic seed, the garlic clove, and then the garlic seed. So the ones that she planted with the garlic clove have the garlic scapes on them and the nice thick bases. And then the ones that grew from seed for the very first time are really
skinny minis there.
Really skinny minis, yeah. But at the bottom of them are these beautiful, pull one out for us. There you go. And we're going to plant that next year. And it'll grow a beautiful bulb for you. So you did a seed saving, Joanne, in a very powerful, unintentional way. Yeah. And then behind the garlic, you've got
celery root. So
nice.
I really like the taste of celery root in my mashed potatoes.
Oh, yum. Celerac. It's also called celerac, right? Celery root, celerac. Beautiful. Yeah. Nice.
Yes. So the last one we haven't talked about, some onions, tons of parsley. It's going crazy this year. We've had lots of rain, and I have some spring onions as well.
Beautiful. And you use organic practices here in the garden, right, Joanne?
I do. Previously had chickens, backyard chickens, just a few, but I would use the bedding after the spring. I would bring it and put it into the garden and mix it in. I no longer have chickens, but I do have now purchased this alpaca beans. So they're just little bits of dry alpaca poop, and you can either make a tea with them. Let them steep for a few hours in some water and then water the garden that way, or just sprinkle them on and let the rain do its work.
That is so cool. And then you also, I see you put some charcoal.
I use I just
garden?
use a little bit of when we have light wood in the fireplace. Yeah. And I just take the ashes and mix them in.
Right. Well. So that helps put carbon into the soil. And then you also, when you pull your weeds, do you just leave them on the ground? So that would be like a living mulch, more or less. That'd be like mulch? That's like living mulching when you pull the weeds and you just leave them. Or you can just let them grow, and that helps keep the soil moist and shaded.
Some of them are pretty aggressive, like those little guys are. I don't keep on top of it very well, but I try to keep them at bay. This is also a magnolia tree on top, and it does use a lot of magnesium. Right. But then also when it flowers and the petals drop, I leave the petals to keep the magnesium back in the soil.
Right. And then I also see you have wood chips in here too. So is that intentional that you have wood chips in here to help?
Just to keep them, the soil moist.
Awesome. Awesome. That's super powerful. And then what about, what do you do with all the bean plants and everything at the end of the season?
Oh, I just mix them back into the soil.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's another organic practice that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, I also heard that leaving the roots intact too keeps the soil aerated. Yeah. So sometimes I just cut the tops off and then just leave them in the ground and keep instead of pulling the roots out from the old the old tomato plants.
Yeah, it does, and it's a great way to build the healthy microbes in soil and aerate the soil. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
So we've seen pretty much everything.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joanne. To learn more about Joanne's gardening journey and the incredible social impact she's had on her community and what she's learned about backyard chickens and growing food for her very own family, check out her full article in issue 13 of Heart and Soil magazine. Not only is Joanne growing food for her very own family and sharing her extras with her friends and her neighbors, she's also inspiring her community and making a massive social impact, helping people to
grow their own food in their front yards, along the sides of their houses, and in their backyards. And she's having conversations with her community and her neighbors, bringing people together and showing the children where food comes from and how it's grown. It's absolutely incredible and life-changing, connecting people to their food and to nature. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Natalie Forsbauer, publisher and editor-in-chief of Heart and Soul magazine. You make yourself an amazing day. Be sure to hit that bell so you know when our next interviews are released, and subscribe and share this with a friend if you think they'd really enjoy seeing a tour of Joanne's yard. Make yourself an amazing day. Big love.